Right, so our next story is called Thomas and the Hurricane, and it's about Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't know if you've seen Thomas the Tank Engine. He's on CBeebies now, I think. But my son, who's now a big boy, he's 12, used to absolutely love Thomas the Tank Engine. And I still have, well, this was his book, and I still have some of his toys. So here's a Thomas. There's a Thomas the Tank Engine. He has a number on the side of him, a number 1. And Thomas's bestest friend is, does anybody know his name? Percy. Percy brings the mail, so that he brings the letters around the island of Sodor. He has a number 6. You can see the number 6 there on his side. Okay, I'm going to see if they're in this story. The story is called Thomas and the Hurricane. Now, I don't know if you know what a hurricane is, but it's when there's a really big, strong blowing wind. Stronger than normal. So strong that it might blow a tree over or blow a roof off a house. And if you were going along in the street, it would definitely blow your umbrella inside out, like this lady's umbrella. Can you see? It's gone the wrong way. I don't know if you've had that happen to you. It's very annoying when you're trying to keep out of the rain. And there's leaves blowing in the picture, and you can see a newspaper blowing across the street because the wind is so strong. So I wonder what's going to happen. I'll need you to help me because we need to start the story off by doing some windy noises. So, because the wind's really blowing. Whistling around. A howling gale was blowing across the island of Sodor. And we call it a howling gale because it does that ooh sound. None of the engines got much sleep that night. Purr, shivered Thomas as he struggled to wake up in the morning. The wind was cold as well as strong. It blew leaves and litter into the shed. That happens in my garden. The wind blows the litter into my garden. I have to go and pick it up. It's not my litter, but the wind has blown it in. There weren't many passengers that morning. They all wanted to stay indoors, and Thomas didn't blame them. Lucky things, he said to himself. Look what's happened to this man. His hat's been blown off his head. And the cat looks like it's really struggling, doesn't it? All his fur is blown around. There's the smoke coming out of Thomas's, or the steam actually, and the smoke out of the chimney. But when Thomas reached the station by the river, he was astonished to see footballers playing in the nearby field. One team was wearing red shirts and the other was in blue. Well done. It's part of the knockout competition, explained the fireman. At the end of the season, the winners will get a silver cup. So here's the fireman. The fireman helps to drive the steam train. Okay, so here's the people playing football. I think this person here, he looks like he might be the goalie. He's got his special gloves on, ready to catch the ball to stop it going into this goal. And look at this dog with his ears blowing backwards. Isn't he funny? So here we go. Oh, and there's Thomas. You can see Thomas's carriages there, Annie and Clarabelle. The trees between the field and the railway waved wildly in the wind. Branches were bending. Sooner them than me, Thomas muttered to himself. They'll all get knocked out if they're not careful. James was waiting at the junction. James is another train, a red train. He didn't mind the wind, he said, and was even boasting about it. My train was right on time, he announced proudly. A little bit of wind can't stop me. James is a bit like that. Just then, the wind blew so hard that the station roof shook, and so did something else. Just look at that signal, exclaimed Thomas. Look, the signal which tells the trains where to go. What's happened to it? It's fallen right down across the track. Signal? What signal? James asked. Suddenly, the signal gantry wasn't there anymore. The gale had blown it down. Help! Said Thomas in alarm as 2 more signal posts broke and crashed to the ground. Let's get away from here! I told you a hurricane was more than a normal wind. It's really quite scary. Look at the sheep. They've all got their eyes shut because they're getting blown so much. And Thomas's face, can you do a face like Thomas? Oh, he really doesn't like being out in the wind, does he? The firemen hurried to the signal box to find out what we should do. We can't move without any signals, explained the driver. How will we know if it's safe? if you're driving a train, you need to make sure you're not going to hit another train because they go so fast. So the signals are a bit like traffic lights when you're going in the car. The signal tells you when it's safe to go or not. Well, it's not safe here either, snorted James. There's no wind. That's no wind, it's a hurricane. The drivers laughed, but they did move the engines along the platform as far as they dared. It was lucky they did, because 2 minutes later, the wind lifted the platform canopy clean off its framework and dropped it to shatter on the platform below. Look at that. The roof's blown right off. Good job they moved out of the way, isn't it? It's really dangerous to go out in a hurricane, and we're very lucky because we don't often have them in our country. No one was hurt, luckily, as the canopy crashed down, but Annie and Clarabel, that's Thomas's carriages, were very frightened, and some splinters of wood had scratched Clarabel's paint. At last, a man with flags came and signalled the 2 trains away. James forgot his boasting and was only too glad to get going. Thomas followed a safe distance behind. Thomas had the wind behind him now, and by the time he reached the curve near the football ground, he was steaming along well. They were halfway round the bend, when suddenly there was a jerk, and the guard's emergency brake went on hard. Groaned Thomas. What's the matter now? He soon found out. Lying across the line in front of him were several enormous fallen trees. Thomas's brakes bit hard, and he stopped just in time. The driver looked back. Running towards them were 3 footballers, followed by the guard, who was waving his flag and blowing his whistle. There's the footballers and the guard behind. Toot toot! He's got his whistle there. So that's how the guard knew when to brake, said Thomas. Oh, thank goodness, you stopped, panted the footballers when they arrived. We thought we were too late. Oh, it was a near thing, said the driver. Thank you for warning us. Later that day, Terence the tractor came and dragged the trees off the line. Trevor was busy in the field using his circular saw. Oh, there's Terence the tractor. And here's Trevor using his circular saw to cut up the wood, while Toby, and Percy, here's Percy, he comes into the story at the end. Toby and Percy worked hard all day, taking the logs away. Evening came, and at last the line was clear. Thomas and Annie and Clarabel could go home. A week later, there was a party at the Riverside station. The Fat Controller gave all the footballers a silver cup as a thank you for saving the train. Ho, ho, ho! You may not have won the tournament, he laughed, but you certainly beat that hurricane. Beep, beep. There's Thomas. I hope you enjoyed my story.